You got to get out more, bro. There's a whole world out there, dude, with people
well,
in it.
Okay, thanks, Wikipedia.
Right on. Let's bring Senator Sabina Perez on. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Chris and Sabina and the KUM family and listening audience. Thank you for having me today.
Of course. Let's just get right into it. Senator Sabina Perez, her oversight, so she's labor, environment, procurement, rev and tax. The rev and tax, right now, a lot of people talking about the Department of Revenue and Taxation because they've been tentagled by the governor to stand up, not just the RISE Act. Bree?
Something else?
Yeah.
I'm confused.
I'm waiting for you to say, all rise. You know the way you say all rise? Yeah.
All rise.
Thank you, yes. Thanks, Bree. Yeah, Senator, so have you had any communication with Rev and Tax, or do you know anything about what's going on with the RISE and the
applications?
And the all rise?
Yeah, nothing new to report other than, they're still waiting on the ruling from the federal government to ensure that what they're spending is approved, I guess. I think that's what the latest. And as far as applications, that hasn't changed at this time. But yeah, it's interesting because initially they were going to expand the program. And so, yeah, I think it's important to kind of put the ducks in the row first before they implement. But, I think if it's going to be for, the whole island community, I think the application process should be removed. That's just going to create more barriers and more work for DRT. They already have enough work as it is, carrying out all the various mandates and processing our income tax return. So, yeah, the application process should be removed if it's expanded to the community.
Yeah, we don't need anything to slow up the tax refunds or the STEMI checks from coming.
But according to the governor, she's just following the law. And in the law, it indicates this application that people have to apply for it. So do you foresee, anybody in the legislature introducing legislation to amend the law? Although, she doesn't really need.
Yeah, that's my thing. It's like if she can go by executive order, include a whole new class of people into this program, then why would she need to follow a stupid law?
I mean, she created Programan, Salapi,
and Empanada.
Yeah. And that wasn't her law.
Right. The order be the quicker route. If you were to get this program up and running or implemented as quickly as possible, the executive orders are the quicker route.
Right.
Sure, we can introduce something to amend the RISE Act. But that could also happen as well. I mean, if it takes 6 weeks, by that time, maybe we can have it ready for session agenda.
Right.
So that is something to look into.
Senator, have we heard at all what the dollar figure is for including the government employees and the retirees?
I need to do the calculations. I'm not too sure about that. $800 to all the residents. I don't have the numbers for you this morning.
But it's based on, I think, income eligibility, right? So it wouldn't necessarily be all the residents. It'd be all everybody who makes a certain amount of money and down.
Yes, that's correct. I don't have the numbers for you this morning.
But I can get that for you. But what are your thoughts on the governor also saying that I'm just following the law? It says up to $30 million was appropriated for the regular RISE, but with the all RISE and it being expanded to everybody else, do you feel that $30 million is going to be sufficient?
Probably not. I think there was maybe 11,000 government workers, so you would expand that, but probably under $40,000. So, for 30 million is not going to be enough. It would have to be a greater share. I don't have the exact numbers for you. Sorry.
Have you heard that any of your colleagues may introduce legislation to amend the law since the governor's following the law?
I haven't heard anything yet, and that should have come out really soon. I mean, we hear, several senators demanding that it be implemented, but I have yet to hear anybody introducing a bill
We have
regarding.
an interesting comment here, Senator, from Rosemary. She's actually one of our prized listeners. She always has a great 2 cents. She comments in this morning, why would she, meaning the governor, add the GovGuam workers and retirees to the RISE Act when she can just give her people, meaning the government workers, since she's authorized to do what she wants? She's now holding up the process for the private sector.
Oh, for which one?
For I mean,
the all right.
You know, I mean, if the governor was truly going to follow the law, then she could just pay out the rise right now. I mean, it's all right there in the law. But by adding this new class of employees and then pinning it to this, we got to wait for this July 16th guidance. And I mean, you know, Rosemary does have a point. It's that the RISE Act is a law and it's good to go. But now the governor wants to add the GovGuam employees and the retirees. So she's adding all these people, and it's going to slow everything down for the private sector workers who were, you know, the center of the intent of this whole RISE Act business.
Yeah, that is true. She could still implement that portion, I believe, the law. But in regards to expansion, that could potentially wait for the decision from the federal government. So that is correct. The RISE Act, as is, could still be implemented.
You know, she did mention that, and she was going to wait for the public comment period to end, which is July 16th or 17th or something like that, right? For the interim final rules from the U.S. Treasury. But it also said that the interim final rules are effective May 17th. And we have the CNMI saying just last week that, you know, we're going to pay out whatever we can with our ARPA funds. We're not going to wait till July 16th that they have the authorization to do so. At least that's their interpretation. Do you feel that we can go ahead and disperse this money into the community, into the people, into the hands of everybody that needs it? Or do you feel that we should just wait until July 16th or after July 16th?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think the RISE Act can still be implemented versus the All Rise. I mean, if the expansion is an issue, then that portion could potentially wait. But for the original bill, the original law that was passed, I think that should be implemented for sure. So we don't have to wait until July 17th, but perhaps maybe the expansion has occurred by executive order, that portion could potentially wait. I mean, we can get most of it implemented, you know, while we're waiting for that final ruling from the Treasury. So I guess the answer is original portion should be implemented. The addition maybe can wait for that final ruling. I think that's I think that's probably the safe way to go.
Right on. Hear that, Governor? That's the way we're going to do it. We'll do it the law first, and then the GovGuam retirees, we'll take care of them when the... Senator, what about this? I know you gave some remarks last week, Friday, I think, ending a session relative to a bill that you had introduced that did not pass, and I think it was 7-8, right?
Yes, that's correct. It was Bill 104, and that would have empowered Department of Revenue and Taxation to implement the cigarette stamp tax program at a fraction of the cost of what a private contractor would do it at. And the documents show that this private contractor would get paid $17 million over the course of the possibility of an extension. And so DRT would have been able to do it at a cost of, like, say, 1%, 2% of that amount. And so all those millions of dollars savings would have gone to paying, helping our most vulnerable populations. And it's unfortunate that the body chose not to look at that, support our most vulnerable population in regards to the health and also education, you know, um, drug rehabilitation, health facilities. It said they thought that yeah they thought otherwise, and we're talking about at this time. I think it's important to think about how we spend our money, whether it's $1 versus millions of dollars. I think that plays into sustainability, right? How are we going to sustain? And that's what this bill would have done. It would actually created a long-term plan on implementing this program. If we're spending $17 million, now today, can we afford the same amount of money in the future, right? But even if we can, I think it's not the wisest use of the people's money, right? This is the people's money, and it should go towards those in need, greatest need, especially now. We've learned from this pandemic that the health of our communities is important, and we need to prioritize that. And yeah, it doesn't bode well, I think, for our community. And I guess the other thing is there was definitely a lot of push to against it.
Yeah.
But really, the bill was there to create a long-term solution to a problem that hasn't been implemented. It would have created more of a level playing field too, as well, for all.
It's so interesting that this cigarette stamp tax privatization law. So there's a back and forth in the court. I know we had Daphne on, but she has recused herself from this issue because of what she says is a conflict of interest. But so basically, you had a private cigarette distributor in Westco trying to sue Gov Guam for not implementing this law. And then the court said, "Hey, Daphne, you guys 30 days to explain why you're not implementing the law." And then I believe the AG's office also chimed in and basically, correct me if I'm wrong, Senator, but the AG's office says that we can't afford to give a private company $17 million to collect taxes.
So yeah, it was a writ. Basically, their response were three parts. First of all, Wesco doesn't have standing to enforce this. The thing was, there was a second thing where it's not a proper procedure, and then the third thing was that the Department of Revenue and Taxation has complied with the law because they've started the procurement, and procurement is not just awarding a contract. Procurement starts with the creation of the bid package itself, all the way up to award, all the way till the completion of the contract itself. So the procurement has started, and I believe in today's paper there's an IFB out for the purchase of the stamps themselves. So the RFP has been separated, and that would actually go towards the privatization. But there's nothing in the law that prevents DRT still from doing the work in-house. Because they can still send out the RFP, but they don't have to award the RFP. So should DRT, find that they should and can do it, or they should do it, then they still can do it. Yeah, it's unfortunate with Bill 104 not passing that it does, at least with Bill 104, it would have provided a long-term funding mechanism for them. And it would also have streamlined the process by taking out a double delay in tax collections. It's just they still could do it, but it's just not as easy without Bill 104.
Yeah, I did see what the AG's office responding, and they were basically saying something like Westco doesn't have standing, and essentially they're just complaining. But I think that those were the words the AG's office used. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think that's correct. That was the exact wording.
So what's next, Senator? I mean, it kind of just seems like all the forces are aligned to just push this thing through. I mean, it's political paybacks. Call it what you will. I mean, is there any way to further fight this law?
I think, yeah, just the public needs to keep an eye on who's going to benefit from this. So yeah, it's who's going to benefit from the $17 million. And, you know, like I said, it's not the wisest use of the people's money, which should have gone to the health of our people. And it still could have been done by DRT at a fraction of the cost. So yeah, I think right now it's really about the people looking who's benefiting from this when it's truly not the most vulnerable people in our community. So.
Yeah, and then you got to wonder too: is it going to be another emergency procurement since we're in a state of emergency? Is this a huge contract which one company? I mean, it's just weird to me that you have this one cigarette distributor who's constantly they were given, you know, free reign in the public hearing, the free reign with the testimony. Their testimony was taken as, you know, biblical almost. Now we're going to have this go out to procurement in a state of emergency. So interesting. Let's bring on Senator Telo. We'll bring on Senator Telo, Senator Sabina. I understand you guys are co-sponsoring a bill together. Ah, Bill 148.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I mean, you're, Chris, if you don't mind, you know, so when you asked about that procurement, you know, with regards to the tobacco tax, and we're in a state of emergency, I think Senator Sabina was about to answer that question since we're in a state of emergency. And if anybody knows about procurement, I mean, this is one senator that actually went to the classes, you know, on procurement. So yeah, I'm curious, Senator Sabina, if this allows them to go through the process through an emergency procurement scenario.
Yeah, so right now the way it's structured, it's an RFP. So that's the emergency procurement. But yeah, I think in addition to seeing who's going to get the contract, it's like, where is the money coming from? Because in the response, it shows that the money, there's sufficient funds available. And, you know, DRT, the most that DRT has ever been appropriated was $12 million in the past 3 years, right? And so now we're talking $17 million. So is that going to come from appropriations? Is that going to come from federal funds, right? So, you know, where are these funds going to come from if they've provided, I guess, the documentation that money does exist. And, you know, that means that money that could have gone to other uses, again, you know, I would think better uses, is being used for this contractor.
I just hopped on about like the last 3 minutes. I'm not sure what else was talked about on the tobacco tax bill that was unfortunately, you know, not able to make it through the legislature and move on. It just, like Senator Sabina said, I'm curious to see who's going to win this award. I mean, what's behind all this? And it's very unfortunate. We tried to speak to many of the senators about the possibilities of helping other agencies, and everyone's screaming that there's not enough money for revenue tax so they can do their job and collect revenue, and most especially enforcement. They don't have the means to do it. This is the opportunity for them, as well as, like Senator Sabina Paris said, with regards to, you know, the Healthy Futures funds going in there to help cancer patients. And so it's very, very, it makes me angry. I'm mad. I'm really mad. I sent out a press release too regarding this, and it's just unfair. So it's not over. I mean, you know, don't think we're just going to sit by and let this, you know, people get away with this. No, I think we're going to continue to fight this, continue to expose those who are involved, and try to do the right thing for the people of Guam. That's what we were voted in for. So I'm not going to give up. And I hope, Senator Parrish, you're not going to give up too. There's a will, there's a way. We're going to make it right.
How about this Bill 148, ladies?
Yep, Bill 148, which is my first co-sponsor actually is from Senator Sabina Paris. And what this is going to do is just double the amount of funds to the University of Guam and UOG I'm sorry, University of Guam and GCC, from the amount that was appropriated in FY 2021. So it'll double the amount for scholarships for these areas. I think the University of Guam is also going to incorporate a financial assistance program too for students that's new at the University of Guam. I know that GCC, they have several programs there too, but they're very limited and capped when it comes to assisting students. They want to be able to double up on the job workforce initiative that they have going. And I think it's the boot camps. What they're ready to do is ramp up on the job ready boot camps and launching more than just what they have for this year and next year. So I think it's the opportunity for us to put money in areas that's going to help grow our economy, as well as assist those people trying to climb out of poverty and give them an opportunity for programs such as this, especially if they can't afford it. So I know that some of the programs at the University of Guam, some of the scholarships weren't even awarded, like the ProTech. In the last 3 semesters, weren't even giving any funding to those who are seeking in the field of medical, doctors or attorneys that we don't offer here on Guam that are sent off island. And that's very, very sad, because if anything, especially doctors, a career that Guam needs to bring back our people, is in the medical field, and it's in doctors. So that's what Bill 148 does. It uses the funds from the earned income tax credit reimbursement that we're anticipated to get. And that's from $55 to $60 million in reimbursement. So as long as we're getting that reimbursement, GCC and UOG will continue to get these scholarships.
Right. Senator, we had the speaker on, and some of these measures in your bill, they are very similar to the spending plan that you guys had submitted to the governor for the American Rescue Plan Act funds. There was some stuff in there where they wanted to give more money to UOG for kind of exactly what you're talking about, these different scholarships, right? Do you feel that this bill and what Speaker had said really resonated with what you're saying? Because you're right, we have these shortages of, you hear it all the time, attorneys, doctors, right? We're recruiting all these people from off island and yet not giving money to our own people who want to go pursue these opportunities and come back and give back to the community. So do you feel that your bill is maybe a little more on the secure side with the use of the EITC funds, or are there going to be any issues with the governor saying you can't tell her what to do with the EITC money?
Well, EITC money is not at the governor's purview. It's for the legislature's appropriation, because every year we set aside $128 million for tax refunds. Of that, about 60 million, 55 to 60 million is set aside for EITC. This is funding that the legislature has the authority to appropriate. Unlike the ARP money, where the governor has the authority to spread the way she wants to without legislative interference, this money is continuous. It creates the fund, and it's every year, while the ARP funding is just a one-time shot. And, I went to that meeting. I didn't hear any commitment from the government with regards to helping out the University of Guam and GCC to help our people provide those scholarships. There was nothing said that she was going to do that. So I'm going to move ahead and do what we need to do in a sustainable way. And we need to find a way to sustain these scholarships for our people, for our students, to excel, to give them the opportunity to make a living for themselves. And then those doctors you were talking about, what better way to have doctors coming from our own island to care for our own people? I mean, the Chamorro way, we're very hospitable, very, kind individuals. And you see that when you're on airlines. You can tell the difference if it's local flight attendants versus, people from off island.
Yeah, the locals give the extra peanuts. Do they still give peanuts? They don't even give peanuts anymore, do they?
Yes, they do.
And
Oh,
they
that's-
smile.
Yeah,
They
smile.
smile. So, what better individuals to come back to serve our own people, is that. But there's other things that I'm hoping that the public hearing, when we have the public hearing, we'll be
Right.
able to discuss about some improvements to make this bill even better and to help even more people. I think Senator Sabina and I were talking when I introduced the bill, and she has an idea that is a great idea. I don't know if we can incorporate it in this legislation, but it's a start. And if you don't mind, I'd like to let her talk about that.
Yeah, so I was asking to extend it into DOA system so that we create a pipeline to these careers. So, it's creating this vertical alignment. But I am in full support of the bill. Of course, for all those reasons about, especially now, we need to rebuild our economy. And what better way to invest in education and diversify our economy through education. And I'm so glad that she included ProTech too. So ProTech is one of those areas that have been unfunded, like she said. So yeah, the idea behind basically what I was thinking is that if we can fund cohorts within Department of Education that can lead to these careers that are so needed. And in government, we're dealing with, a lot of people are retiring, and with them, the institutional knowledge too is leaving with them. And it's important that, we have to address the shortage. And just looking at some of my own agencies like Guam PA, there are 36 vacancies. There's they only have 50 employees, I believe, and 36 vacancies. GSA, there's only 5 buyers, right? 5 buyers. I think that's only half of what they had listed. But GSA is one of those agencies. We'll be hearing DOA's budget hearing today. But they've actually dealt with $140 million of procurement in 2020. And in this year, in 2021, it's about, I calculated 150 million, and that number is, so we definitely need to build capacity, within the economy as well as within government too, to support, to support the needs of our community.
Senator Perez, you mentioned that DOA is going to be appearing right today for their budget oversight. You talked a lot about procurement. Have you received any update on the Department of Administration's plans to procure this new financial management system?
No, I haven't since we last talked. I know it was an RFP. I think the press release that Vice Speaker sent out, it looked like it was an RFP, and they were going to use. So the way an RFP works is at the agency level. So it would be the director, and then other employees are going to be on the panel and selecting who this vendor would be. So my concern again was whether these individuals have training. Again, with procurement, to do any kind of procurement, one has to comply with the educational requirements. They would have to complete all 4 modules. And in looking at the OPA's audit, many of those agencies don't have the capacity, and that's why they go through the chief procurement officer.
Right.
To procurement. So
did you get a response?
I haven't yet. And looking actually, if I can share, I review the sole source procurement. There are 347 of them in the reporting that was provided to the legislature. And of the sole source, it equates to about $12 million, and a big portion of that. So that's 12 million out of perhaps the 150 million that went through GSA. And a big portion of that is for services, for internet IT, IT. And I think that's just, it'd be interesting to see what the other portions of the procurement, so not just sole source and emergency, but the other types of procurement, what is it we are procuring? So I think that needs to be looked at too as well.
And I think also it's important to find out where the funding is going to come from too as well. Anytime you send any kind of RFP, there has to be funding set aside. And if I'm not mistaken, that the governor mentioned during that meeting, the ARP meeting, about this financial system, that the funding may come from ARP funding.
Right.
But you know, I've also sent a letter to Senator Paris asking for an oversight hearing with GSA. And I know she's been working diligently with trying to collect all the information. I think there were boxes and boxes of info going through. I mean, hence the 347, you know, sole sourcing that was brought up earlier. So hopefully we'll have that hearing shortly. But I know she's working on it, trying to get a date.
Yeah, we have to communicate with the CPO, so I plan a meeting with her today.
Did she answer your calls?
Do
you have problems getting a hold of the chief procurement officer? We do.
Right, looking through the documents she sent. So, but yeah, we are going to set up a meeting.
Right. So basically, when you requested documents, they were like, "Oh, you want documents? Here's 500 boxes of documents." Is that what happened?
Well, it's a box, but it's a lot to go through. So yeah, organizing it and categorizing all the papers.
Yeah. Oh, we had a comment here from Rosemary LaGuardia. Will the governor's holding back in submitting her ARPA plan for spending affect the upcoming budget? I mean, yeah, the answer is yes, right? Because we just saw some of that last week with public health. But how much of a headache is that when you guys get these agencies in and, you know, you're trying to figure out their budget, and then lo and behold, you find out they're getting, you know, 5-6 million, whatever, from Anti-Lou.
17 million.
17 million, you know, 8 million from a top bank, 20 million for Uncle Carl's marketing.
Yes, yesterday we had a public hearing for the budget hearing for DISIT. And of course, you know, since the first question I asked on public health, you know, how much money of ARP money are you requesting in the 17? Well, it all stemmed from, they asked for 17 million less at public health.
Right.
And so asking for that list, he started mentioning the list. I'm still waiting for public health's list to come in, but when we had the meeting for DISIT yesterday, they mentioned that they're going to be asking for ARP funding on equipment, etc. And they just started mentioning it. So I asked the question, well, how much money have you asked from ARP? And they said $3 million. $3 million. So that prompted the oversight chair to ask them for that list that tallied 3 million. I mean, if you're coming up with a 3 million figure, then you must have an itemized, you know, statement available. So, you know, we're going to continue to ask, but I've heard that they haven't provided us, any of the agencies provided those lists of requested ARP funding.
Maybe you guys should. Maybe you guys should send a FOIA for communication between the agencies and the governor's office relative to ARP spend.
I'm just saying, yep.
I'm going to do that right now.
The budget, like Senator Telo was saying, is that they're asking for less than what they need. So that's kind of odd.
Yeah. I mean, does that give you an idea? Because we're all sitting here waiting for this, you know, plan from the governor, and she's saying that. Okay, I saw there's a media report. She says something like they're not going to come up with a plan until after the guidance, the public comment period on the guidance ends in July. But do you think that this is the plan? Is that when you get these agencies coming in, they're saying, "Oh, we're asking 3 million." Like if you just go down the list and tally who's getting what, I mean, maybe that's the plan. Because they're obviously closer to the governor than you guys are.
Yeah, and then again, it makes it very difficult for the legislature to do the budget, you know, because of this. And because I'm pretty sure, well, I'm hoping other senators, when you're doing a budget this year for 2020, you have to consider what's going to happen the following year. You know, it's not just that one time you concentrate on it. You have to consider the following year after that. So while we're working on 2022, we have to be conscious of 2023. And if I'm not mistaken, I heard DISIT mentioning that of that 3 million, one of them was to fund a position. But how can you fund a position with ARP money that's one time, you know, you're going to have to sustain that the following year. So it makes it very difficult budget-wise for us to be able to fund bodies, or vacancies with money that's only a one-shot deal, and that's what we were trying to tell them. That if you're going to go for ARP funding, and that's what we did in our resolution, that none of it was funded for salaries or positions, because those need to be, funded yearly. So it makes it very difficult for us to do the budget when they're hiding information like that. Very important information.
Wow.
Yeah. Well.
There's nobody at the legislature, any of the innies down there that probably know, what these lists are and just not sharing the information with everybody.
The next thing I think is the FOIA. Like Chris mentioned, I mean, the only other thing to do now is just to FOIA the, what's transpiring between the agencies and Adelup with regards to ARP funding. I mean, that's probably the only thing that we can do.
Well, I beat you to it. Press and send. I'm pressing send.
Oh, really? Okay, well, good, because then your head.
I'm just, you guys, because you're going to have to work backwards, right? If you're not getting it from Adelup, but then you're getting all these agencies coming in saying, oh, we're getting this, we're getting that, we're getting that. Then there's obviously, unless it's just something that's coming up in a cabinet meeting where they're like, hey, Gov, can we get the 20 mil? I heard you're giving Uncle Carl 38 mil. Can we get 3? Unless it's like that and there's no record of it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, can't the legislature call Adelup down to, in a formal, proceeding?
Committee of the whole type thing?
Yeah. I remember during the I don't want to say it was a surge, but there was a whole presentation. It was on Facebook Live where the legislature, I believe, called down Adelup to do a presentation on, the COVID response. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Isn't that something that the legislature can do again?
Well, to ask them to do the presentation, I think they're going to be
some kind of something. It just seems like we should be working together, not, playing games.
That's what I was hoping for. Sabrina, that's what I was hoping for. With meeting with the governor, we gave the list that she asked us for. And that meeting, I was hoping we were going to sit down, roll up our sleeves, and discuss what's the next step. Okay, Governor, we showed you ours. Can you show us yours? And let's sit down and discuss this between the two, the two branches of government on how to move forward. But none of that was done. None. And it was very frustrating. So I was hoping to do it that way. So if they weren't willing to, share us their list, then I don't think if we call them down to ask them to share us, they're going to give it to us. I did ask the governor after that meeting. I went up to her and asked her when we were going to get her list, and she said, shortly. And I said, well, we need this for budget time. She goes, oh, yes. And that was it. The extent of it. So maybe I'm on the wrong party to ask to get some answers. So, hey, Sabina, can you ask that?
Oh, she's in the right party, but the wrong person.
Yeah.
You got to go buddy up with Mary Torres, Senator Telo, if you want to get in. All right.
That's Bill 104.
Thank you, ladies. We got to run and take a break, but definitely feel the frustration. I mean, it's a recurring theme. But you know what I do appreciate is that you gave it a shot. You know what I mean? You made some noise. Governor sent a letter, said, hey, let's meet over this. You guys are doing your part with the speaker and the senators. But then also what I liked is that there's this public hearing process moving forward. So you in good faith sat with the governor, broke bread, provided your plan. But that being said, there's still an effort to move forward on your own. And
well, DOA, right? They're scheduled to be before the legislature for their budget oversight. Is something you guys plan on pressing Mr. Byrne about?
Yeah, definitely. I guess for me, what are their expenditures? As far as GSA is concerned, that's going to be my main focus with this one. in addition to other, how they're spending the money on the financial management system, the other expenditures.
I'm very interested too on that resolution that we're going to have, the public hearing we're going to have for that resolution from the legislature on the art funding. That's going to be very interesting. Let's see who comes forward. You can get the public out there to come out there, whether if you don't come in person, it is going to be a hybrid public hearing. You can go via Zoom or in public. And this gives you the opportunity, which you feel our island is in most need of. A lot of the stuff that we put in the resolution is infrastructure programs, like jumpstart programs to get it going and things like that. So you can view the resolution on the website and look at areas that you think that you want to support or things that are not on there that can support. So I encourage the public out there to please, take part of this opportunity. It's unprecedented to have this much money to be given to Guam to use, at one time.
Totally.
So be very, very helpful if they can come out. And also, if I can, on Bill 104, this tax stamp, I ask the public, please keep a vigilant eye on this. This is an opportunity. I ask you to write to those senators who voted no on this bill and get an answer from them. Ask them why, because Senator Sabina had mentioned everything that this false information that was coming out through a social media that, it raises taxes, that it's going to hurt us in some way when it's not going to, but ask these senators for an answer as to why they voted no on something that was going to help our community so much.
Thank you, Senator Telo. Thank you, Senator Sabina.
Thank you.
Enjoy drinking our coffee together.
Bye, Dixon.
Okay, we'll see you. All right.
Have a good day.
That's 7:36. Real quick break. Speaker of the Guam Legislature, Speaker Teresa Lahi, is coming up next right here on the link. Good morning.